fall from heaven. Ezekiel 28, caution advised. Hello everyone, my name is Al Person. You can contact me at pastor@mascot.church, which is my email address, or in the comments below if you like. If you interact with this video, like, share, subscribe, send it on to somebody else. YouTube may recommend it on, and who knows. There's a passage in the book of Ezekiel that is very often attributed to Lucifer, to the devil, and as a fallen angel falling from heaven. And I've heard it many times over many years. Now, really, I think the burden of proof on that is on the theory. If you hold that theory, then you should probably stand by it. What we're going to do, though, is today give you a bit of a primer. I've done a video on this in the past. I might turn this into a small playlist. I'm not really sure. The reason I'm doing this today is this is actually part of my devotions. Just my devotional reading is this section, and I wanted to pick this up again here. It's not my message for tomorrow in church, which is slightly different, and so kind of that's what you get here. Hey, I appreciate your prayers for me. My personal journey is as tough as it's ever been, and so still trying to make the adjustments that have come from my loss last year, and yep, sometimes it gets easier, sometimes it gets actually more difficult. So there you go. Hey, let's go on with the topic. First of all, what am I talking about? Ezekiel 28, there is a lament for the king of Tyre. What I might do is pop this back up, and some of you will be familiar with this passage, and I'm sure, especially in modern churches, you might have heard that this could possibly be a reference to the devil. Maybe. This in Ezekiel 28, there's a prophecy against the prince of Tyre, and there is a further lament over the king of Tyre. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I'll check it for the next video probably. But look at this. It says, "You were the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, and emerald, and carbuncle, and crafted in gold were your settings and your engravings. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. You were an anointed guardian cherub. I placed you on the holy mountain of God. In the midst of the stones of fire you walked. You were blameless in your ways from the day that you were created, till unrighteousness was found in you. In the abundance of your trade, you were filled with violence in your midst, and you sinned. So I cast you as a profane thing from the mountain of God. I destroyed you, O guardian cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was proud because of beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of splendor. I cast you to the ground, exposed you before kings, to feast their eyes on you. By the multitude of your iniquities, in the unrighteousness of your trade, you profaned your sanctuaries. So I brought fire out from your midst. It consumed you, and I turned you to ashes on the earth in the sight of all who saw you. All who know you among the peoples are appalled at you, and you have come to a dreadful end, and shall be no more forever." Now, normally, I don't leave the headings in when I do this. This is Bible Gateway, but it is kind of important here because the next prophecy is against Sidon. And if you flick over to the beginning of the prophecies and lament for Tyre, that begins in chapter 27:1. So the headings are not put there by man, but they sometimes are useful, and so that's why I've left them up for this presentation. Now, let's, where am I here? Let's just come back to this and just chat a little bit about this. I understand this, why this sort of idea that this might be a reference to Satan falling from heaven like lightning. I understand that. And the reason that I understand it is that most people read passages like this as they stand alone. They don't say, well, how is this language used? They'll look and they'll say, oh, it says that this being was a created being. And obviously people aren't created, they are born. And so this must refer to a fallen angel who was a created being. Now, I have addressed this in the past, but going forward, based on this, I will address this in more detail. Ezekiel, however, refers to other human beings and nations as created beings, same language. So that kind of disqualifies that. And then what about being in Eden in the garden of God, being walking amongst the stones of fire? This very language is also attributed, variations of it, to kings and to rulers alive in Ezekiel's day. This is prophetic language. This is the kind of language that describes a nation or a king who is in a good place, and that nation can fall. You might remember from my discussion a couple of videos ago, and I think these should all go in a playlist, by the way, in the from Eden to wilderness, wilderness to Eden discussion, that it's quite common for God even to use this Edenic language, you are in Eden, even for nations that were not Israel, Gentile nations. And if they were in favor, they were there. Now, we're going to see examples of this going forward. We saw it last week with Assyria. What wonderful claims were made about Assyria when Assyria was being used by God. This is very much the same about Tyre. I'm going to say Tyre from now on in until I can, whatever. But this is very much the same. You may recall that King Solomon, when he built the temple, went to Hiram from this very place, who was a friend of Solomon's and a friend of David's, who brought and provided cedar for the temple and provided resources for the temple. And they had a very good relationship, even though Hiram was an idol worshiper. And so that's really fascinating. And you see that God used this nation to provide resources for the building of the temple and the securing of his land under David and under Solomon. And so this is really interesting stuff. At this point, you could say of Tyre that they were in Eden. They were in the garden of God. They were protected. Now, what of this nation? What's going on here? Well, the thing that we need to understand again is the rules of journalism, asking ourselves who, what, where, when, why, how, as many of these questions as possible. This is Ezekiel making the prophecy. He's making the prophecy about a nation at the time that was very, very well established and powerful. In the context of this prophecy, which we'll have to look at, Ezekiel is talking about a mighty king who God is raising up, that is King Nebuchadnezzar, who is bringing judgment on the nations all around Israel, but also on Israel itself for their sin. This is all part of the mix. So we've done the who, kind of this is the when, the where. These are all starting to come together. Tyre was a very well-established kingdom at the time. It was in two parts. There was the island that was there was an island off the shore, and there was an internal, like a coastal part of Tyre. And so these two were both, they both made up the one kingdom. Now, in Ezekiel's day, or in the time when this prophecy was fulfilled, the first part of this prophecy, Nebuchadnezzar came and besieged the mainland version of Tyre for 13 years. A siege that lasted for 13 years. Think about that for a moment. Now, archaeology backs this up. The scriptures back this up. And this is really, let's imagine that, right? It's a siege warfare. The island version was not under siege at the time, and would have been very difficult for Nebuchadnezzar to have done. Now, Nebuchadnezzar did not have ocean fleets. It was a land-based army, or not much. And but he knew that he had to destroy Tyre in order to be sure that as his advances took place, that he would not have problems behind him. And so this horrible thing took place. Now, God rewards Nebuchadnezzar's soldiers with the spoil from Egypt for their work for which they were not paid not paid well for their attack on the coastal part of Tyre. So just get this here. I hope that I've kept you. And I think in future versions we'll put a map together. So there was the island fortress, and there was the onshore fortress. Nebuchadnezzar, coming to bring God's judgment, besieged the onshore portion of Tyre for 13 years. Well, it did eventually fall. It was razed to the ground. The island version did not fall at the time. It was, however, seriously economically crippled, because, of course, all their trade with the mainland was in trouble, but they were very, very secure. Well, when did the island version fall? Years later, Alexander the Great took out the island version. And what he began to do, it's an amazing story, really. He began to build a causeway, basically a road from the mainland to the island. And there's a lot of history about this. It's very well known what took place. And the number of soldiers who died or those who were captured were conscripted to do it. When the road was almost nearly done, the inhabitants of the island, in a very brazen military attack, set fire to some of Alexander's fortifications, pushed it back, and it caused Alexander to have to go and get reinforcements. He blockaded the island even more, and he basically ultimately obliterated the population there as well. It's a cruel story. Let me tell you, war is cruel, and medieval war and ancient warfare, it's worse. And so this happened then. So this nation of Tyre was judged in two elements. First of all, the internal coastal side of the nation fell under Nebuchadnezzar. Then years later, the island fell under Alexander the Great. So you sort of get this sense that this is quite a complex thing going on. Now, when God had Tyre in his plan and in his view. They were in Eden. They were in the garden of God. They were doing all of those things. They really served the divine purpose well. But when the time came for them to fall, bam. Now, the other thing we have to ask here is if this is a reference, this passage I just read is a reference to the devil, we have a chronological problem. Because the Lord himself said that he saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. Nevertheless, just prior to the Lord saying this, he faces Satan at the height of his power. When Satan says, "I'll give you the nations of the earth if you fall before me." I mean, think about that. It's like, all right, well, what's going on here? Now, I believe the way to look at this is that and I'm not alone here, is that the defeat of Satan took place at the temptation, when he was not able to temptate. That's a good word. He was not able to tempt the Lord of glory and cause him to fall. This was the end of his power. At that version of his power, he lost it. He couldn't do it anymore. He was then subject to defeat. So that's kind of where I am. Other topic, I think there might be a video on this in the past. Okay, so let's just roll this together and talk about what we're doing today, where we're going to go in the future, how this will work. I want to take the time and break apart and do a series of videos on Ezekiel 27 and 28. We're going to have a look at the lament that's there. We're going to have a look at the judgments that are there, and we're going to also parallel and have a look at why people think this particular passage might be about the devil. And we're going to see that all of the phrases that people attribute to the devil have actually been, in the rest of Scripture, particularly Ezekiel, attributed already to kings and rulers alive at the time. And this will drive us back to being able to understand that Ezekiel's prophecy is about the nations that were alive and around at the day and in the day. And this is a really wonderful look at how this great prophet, Ezekiel, is used to provide a message of assurance and calmness to the people in captivity, those in covenant care, and also a message of judgment to the world around. Now, there is a phrase in the book of Ezekiel that is, it kind of resonates all the way through the book, and that is, "And then they shall know that I am God." I'm not sure it's unique to Ezekiel, but certainly he uses it a lot. After Ezekiel promises judgment on these nations, they probably hear the message, oh yeah, there's a prophet in Israel saying this is going to happen. Once those things take place, the people say, the prophet is right. Then they shall know that I am God. It's a wonderful kind of thing that you get. More specifically, that phrase, and I think I'll check it. Pretty much all Ezekiel. Okay, want to do any homework or follow along with this topic? Follow along with me and this topic, Ezekiel 27 and 28. Get a chance to read it. I would suggest that you have a look at other people's comments on it, even the commentaries, and you can see the commentators struggled a little bit too. But I do believe that the position that I hold, along with many others, that the prophecies in Ezekiel 28 are about the rulers, physical, real rulers of Tyre, I'll get it right, alive in the day. Hey, thank you for joining me today. That's the video. Come back again soon where we will pick this topic up. Fall from heaven, Ezekiel 28, caution advised.